hopefully we can shed some light into services, what's happening in the county. And again, this isn't to be Debbie Downer. This is just to give you a realistic look of what's going on. That goes into the gating criteria. And then where services are. And right off the bat, not much has changed since last week. And I'll start off with the gating criteria. Gating criteria is it's a reference term that we use coupled with the County of Monterey and our neighboring cities to report up, and the cities don't report up, we do as a base, to Fleet Forces Command through our region, through installations, and to Fleet Forces Command and Admiral Grady staff as to where the local community, where the community is in regards to the bases here, and that's us from the Presidio, and our ability to potentially open certain services that have been closed down. So they take the temperature of the area, see the rolling incidence rates, and the rolling incidence rates are the number of positives that come from the number of tests per 100,000 or measure of 100,000. So that's our big criteria. Each week you will see a number of tests, the numbers go up. Well, we're never going to catch up with the numbers going up. So don't get disappointed by that if you see the numbers go up. What we have seen, unfortunately, over the last week is the rolling incidence rate go from 70 to 80, and in this last weekend it went to 140. In weeks past, I did say that this was potentially linked to a large part with the harvest area, and a lot of it, the migrant workforce in the congested area from which the workspace and harvesting the number of fields around here, agriculture being a very big industry, the big industry here in Monterey County and our neighboring counties. That was expected, and we knew that might take place back in April and May, and we saw it coming, so we're not disappointed by that. However, the increase that we saw over the last week wasn't coupled with the harvest season. It was coupled more so with community transmission, and that meant with people out and about, visitors to Monterey County, and not just the beaches. And we don't know the locales. We're trying to chase that down, but just the things that come with people being in close proximity in various spots in and around town. So that was a little bit of a surprise to us. The number that it went up was a surprise to us. But if you've been paying attention to the news, and everybody chiming in has been, you see that California is a hot spot, as are the Sunbelt states during the summer. So the incidence rate has gone up for 100,000. We're sitting at about 141. Remember, for us to open certain services, we have to at least be in the yellow, which is below 45, and preferably in the green, which is below 2025. So we're a ways out, but that doesn't mean that we can't get there quick, and it's got to be a 14-day rolling average. So as you go over those 14 days, if you have a spike ups or down, much like you would with any sampling for statistics, you cast that out and you make sure you stay in touch with that, what you say, a rolling average, a rolling incidence rate. And that's what we're paying attention to. And unfortunately, that went up to 140. So as to where we are, we're not to a point that we can request services. A number of people have reached out regarding decoupling. You've heard me say line item things open. And when I say that, it's barber shops, the fitness center, golf courses, RV parks, things that I had to close down. Starbucks, food items, Trident Room, those things we had to close down as we went into the early stages of this COVID crisis, this COVID event. Those things I have been trying to bring open, and we have been able to show that we can do it safely. However, a part of that is realizing the rolling incidence rate, realizing where Governor Newsom went with closing off certain services that had previously been open, and with the city of Monterey and our neighboring cities closing off gyms and in dining and bars and tasting rooms, all those things being closed down the last week. So where we were in the step to get those back open, we have now taken a step back, and we'll have to wait before we can couple those back in. So I don't mean that to be bad news. I think a lot of us have seen that, realize that as soon as we can open up, as soon as I can show a measure that we can, I'm going to go after those to be opened. And in the next week, I'm probably going to go after, I can show a case for one, golf courses, because the golf courses in the area have not been closed off, as well as potentially barber shops. Even though the barber shops in town have been closed off, certain ones up at the Presidio, for us to mirror what's happening at the Presidio, remain open. So those are tied to, again, the relaxed grooming standards, which are still relaxed grooming standards for everybody out there. So I may not have any place to go with barbershops with regards to golf courses, or where I can provide some relief. chapel services are another that I'm going to try and get back open. They'll have to be outside. They're going to be regulated to 10 or less, spaced out, but working with my command chaplain who is chomping at the bit to get these things back open because you can show a safe way of doing it. Those are a couple of things I'm gonna levy to have open. I have full support from my boss, and it's just showing how we can do that safely as we move forward. So that's where we are with regard to the gating criteria. I know it's not good news for everybody, but it's the news nonetheless. And our effort in these drumbeats is to provide you some clarity into what's happening in the background, put to rest some of the rumors with regards to gating criterias and how come these services aren't open. This is why they're not open, and it's because of the conditions in the county. I know we're going to come out of this, but the most important things are this: social distancing and wear a face mask, wear a face covering, out there and wash your hands. You do those three things and we will have gone a long way to defeating this. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that out there. And I'm not saying from you. We had a couple of questions last week. Can I still exercise? Do I have to wear a face mask? The answer is yes, you can still exercise. And yes, like I do when I bike, I wear this. So when I'm coming up on somebody, you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting them, especially when you're starting to breathe a little bit too loud, as I do when I'm working out. Please help protect them by maintaining that courtesy for them when you're out and about. The city of Monterey is still citing if you don't have it. So please don't go out and go, well, are they really still citing? Again, we're the good guys on this. We're the ones who obey the rules that are out there. So we don't try and shortcut. Please side with me, do your part and stay in the course and make sure that these face coverings, your social distancing, and all those things, washing your hands, you're abiding by those, and we will get through this and we will help others get through this as well. So thank you for doing that. I think that's it for me on all the good news. You probably want me to jump off this right away. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. As I promised last week, when Kyle is done with his opening statement, he's going to pass it back to me. I'm going to address the three questions that I had last week. The first one, with regards to certain people with medical conditions, can they come on base, as well as addressing HPCon levels. We are still at Charlie right now. We haven't decreased from that, but I'll go a little more into that. And by the way, HPCon level and stage 1 to stage 2 aren't necessarily linked. They're closer linked now, but they aren't necessarily linked with us being able to decouple. So I can be in Charlie and still open up those others, but I'll shed some light on the HPCon level, which also rests with fleet forces and the ability to, and who directs those to go from Charlie to Charlie Marnus and to Bravo. But with that being said, I'll grab it back from Kyle when he's done, but I look forward to talking to you some more. Kyle, over to you.
Thank you, Skipper. And once again, thank you, NSA Monterey, for tuning in this week. Happy to give you updates on what's going on. The main change in terms of news that's out there since last week's town hall is the MPUSD changed to services for resuming school in August. So for those that don't have this information yet, I'm going to give you kind of MPUSD's timeline for what their plans are for the school year next year. Again, this is all tentative based on the situation. As of right now, they plan to do full distance learning in August through September of next year. That's their first phase for school next year. Again, that's full distance learning for all of the children for the MPUSD school district. I don't have the current information as well as far as Carmel and PG. I know we have a lot of customers out there that also use those schools, as well as some of the charter schools in the local area, but the majority of our families do use the MPUSD school system, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. Their plan is for October through December, through the end of this year, to go to the hybrid one that they had originally planned to do from the start, which would be 2 days on, 3 days off, if you elected to do that, or you could continue to keep your child in full distance learning during that period. And then their last phase would be starting in January through the rest of the school year would be a return to the new normal, if you will. With procedures in place, but having the kids actually return to the schools starting in January. Some might say that's an optimistic plan, and obviously that's what we're all hoping for. But for right now, that is the plan the MPUSD has. Again, I'll reiterate, it is full distance learning for August and September, looking to transition in October to the hybrid model that they mentioned before, the 2 days on, 3 days off. And then starting in January would be a full in-person school again at that point. And all of those options always have the full distance learning option for the families that do not feel comfortable sending their kids back to school, that is the option for you. So what's that mean for our military community? In terms of care, and I know that care is a really big point and a really big focal point for a lot of our families. The families that are currently eligible for care, mission critical families, they already know who they are. They already have care, and whether they may or may not be using that care right now, that care, if you are eligible for care, you will be able to use the school age care program, which is typically our before school and after school program. It will be an all-day program for those children that are authorized care at this time. But a reminder again that our staff are not teachers. They don't have the ability to help your children distance learn other than giving them the resources that they need, including Wi-Fi, a desk with a place to do their work, silent areas away from the kids that may be doing other activities. That's where our focus will be at this point, to help out those kids whose parents decide to have their kids go to the school age care center during the regular school days. But again, the encouragement is to teach your kids at home. That keeps everyone safe. It keeps the amount of kids that are in the center limited, access to the staff, potential exposure, and so forth. So nothing has currently changed in terms of that. That's the plan come October or come August when school does resume. We will have additional resources in the school age care center for students who need to have care because their parents are physically going to work. We will be supporting those families. Cheryl McLeod, our school liaison officer, she has a lot of resources to share with the community in terms of helping you manage the distance learning in your home. Over 30 different websites that offer all kinds of learning opportunities. The MPSD is obviously going to be providing your children with the distance learning piece, but some families may choose to do homeschooling. Some families may choose to do a little additional work with their children in the house. So Cheryl can provide that information to you. Lots of fantastic resources that are out there. Her name again is Dr. Cheryl McLeod. She is on the MPS Global. So if your spouse is on the MPS website, they have access to her email. And I will actually look for her email right now and give you her full email, which would be a benefit, I'm sure. So Cheryl's full email is cgmcclou@nps.edu. Again, that's cgmcclou@nps.edu. Cheryl is our school liaison officer, so she's constantly in communication with the MPSD, Carmel, and PG school systems to provide up-to-date information to the community, help students with their transition in and out of Monterey, as well as keep communications with the schools. So if you have any issues with your school, you can also involve Cheryl in that. She can either point you in the right direction or assist you with the challenges that you may be having in terms of your school. So a really good thing that Cheryl is coordinating is part of the City of Monterey Summer Expo 2020. They're going to be handing out free school supplies. I believe our PAO, Tina Stillions, has the flyer. She might be able to put it up on the feed right now. But this is going to be on Thursday, July 30th. You can drive through. It's going to be curbside pickup for school supplies. And again, that's going to be lots of supplies that you're going to need to use in the house. So whatever your child would normally use in the school to complete their school activities and stuff, you will now need to provide that obviously in your house if your children are distance learning at home. So great opportunity to get the supplies you need in a one-stop shop. Again, that's Thursday, July 30th. And I don't know if the flyer was able to be put up or not, or maybe it'll be a link to it will be put in the chat. And that is going to be from 10 to 12 at the La Mesa Community Center in La Mesa, and it'll be 3 to 5 p.m. out at the Stillwell Community Center out in the Fort Ord area. So, of course, standard things apply. You need to wear a mask for pickup, but you could drive right through during those times. Again, 10 to 12 in La Mesa, and 3 to 5 p.m. at Stillwell out in Fort Ord. You can stop in there, get your school supplies. That'll get you off on the right start for your August resume school with your children. That's really the only update we have from Quality Life Services, because obviously the situation out in town has not changed. A lot of businesses have reverted and gone back So, you know, people were asking at one point, why has the Navy been slow to reopen things? Well, looks like the Navy might have been on point with their slow roll of reopening services, because we've seen outside the gate that services have now reverted back to closures in a lot of areas. So that's the situation we are in right now. As Captain Wiley mentioned, as soon as we can get services safely open to the community, we absolutely will push that up and try and get those services open. Just trust that we are doing what we can to get services back open for you in a safe manner. Reminder again that for the chat room is open. If you have questions that you want to put out to us, we will answer those through the chat and try and address those. I don't see any questions yet, but let's see. We have a question here about.
Actually, Kyle, before you go into that, we want to start off with the questions that we had from last week, and then we'll address some of the new ones that are out there.
Yeah,
so
sir, go ahead.
Kyle, for that. First of all, I'm going to start off, not the exact first one I was going to start off with, but it was the HPCon levels. And there's a lot of questions with that being linked to the stage. And, you know, I would tell you there's 5 stages. We're actually in HPCon Charlie, Force Protection Bravo. We're in stage 1 of reconstitution. And we're in, there's something else out there. I'm not going to even go into that, all the stages, because it'll confuse you, obviously, like it tends to confuse me from time to time. The HPCons are not linked to the stage. Even though the stages come as a reflection from the HPCon levels, I can reopen, or decouple some of the services here based off our argument and still be at HPCon Charlie. So what triggers or conditions or gating criteria to cause military leaders to lower the HPCon level? The HPCon level is a reflection of where we are in the pandemic. So the fact that we were at Charlie, the Presidio was thinking of lowering theirs to Bravo Plus. And then a few weeks ago, you saw the numbers start to go off and they held off on doing that, rightfully so. So even though the Army and the Navy may not be in the same, same category, our reactions to those mirror because we share the same FAOs. You'll hear me say FAO, that's Public Health Emergency Officer. Ours is Major Jody Brown with the Army, as well as Commander Jaime Vega with Navy Medicine out of Lemoore. So those are my direct inputs for the HPCon levels. They give me some background as to why they are, where they are, as well as some tippers in their communication with county health officials as to where we are going, what's some of the trending that we can see out there. So Kyle and I can anticipate it for our reaction, for our arguments, and the potential of opening some of these services. So it's not like we wait for the last day. We are prepping that, we are priming that pump to be able to move into the next HPCon level. But the HPCon level mirrors what's happening out in town. Some positives out in town are, despite the rolling incidence rate, and again, that's the number of positives that are popped per the number of tests that are given. And we saw that go up to 140. The good news is once that starts lowering for 14 days, that allows us to go into the next criteria, which is an argument for the next stage. So we have to see it bettering for 14 days. And it's not just with Monterey County, but it's also Santa Cruz, San Benito, and San Luis. And all of us in this little breadbasket, if you will, have seen our numbers going up. So again, some good news, but I threw some bad news into that as well. But the 3 T's, as I've talked about, which is test, trace, so the ability to test, the ability to trace if somebody comes up with a positive, and our ability to treat at our local hospital still remains high. I sent out to the military deans, local test sites, those are out there for the military and DOD. The POM is available, so please reach out to your primary care manager if you feel you need a test. Like I mentioned last week, going up to get a test, if you're curious, is not the reason to get a test. If you think you've been exposed, if somebody in your family thinks you've been exposed, if you've been in an area that has had high exposure, and I don't know why you would have been there, but if there's any doubt or you start to come down with some symptoms that just not feeling good about, please go on up there and get yourself tested. That's what they're meant for. But if you're asymptomatic, which means you're not exhibiting any signs and you're just curious, that's not a reason to go up there, because those health officials are wanting to make sure they're reaching out to the people that are available. I hope that makes sense. One of our first questions for last week, as I went into those, was, let me scroll up to it. Are people who fall into the CDCs need to have extra precautions allowed on base campus or have any additional limitations for access? I've reached out to the person who asked me that question, but for the general group, I said I would reach out to everybody else. In the last week, those with immune deficiency or immune systems that can potentially be compromised, those that are going through cancer protocols, those that potentially with diabetes, those that have had Lyme disease in the past, brand new moms with infants, have concerns about coming onto base, potentially using the gas station, walking around the park, walking around the lake, just walking around campus or going to the exchange. With those conditions, are they allowed on base? My answer is yes, they are allowed, but without knowing the condition, my reply email to you will be, can I bring in my FAO, my public health emergency officer, my medical professional, to make sure that they can answer your question sufficiently? So, which is what I did with this one person. He mentioned their condition. I brought in the FAOs, they addressed their concerns, this person's concerns, and I hope this person was able to visit campus. So I won't go off on a limb and say, sure, come on, you're welcome. Sure, come on, you are welcome at any time. But if you have any questions, the base isn't going to not allow you unless you have been exposed to anybody with COVID. But based on your medical conditions, if you're concerned about it, reach out to us and I'll get it answered for you. I hope that answers your question. With each one of these, I only know what I know. So please, for me, with regards to medical conditions, with regards to gate access or anything else, you've got my emails out there. Shoot me an email. Go through your military deans. Go through the dean of students, whoever. The first thing I will do is drop and provide you an answer, just to make sure that we alleviate any doubt that's out there. Those are the three questions that I had. I had one with regards to PCS restart. Is there any flexibility for officers or sailors who have dependents in school or have other restraints from moving at a specific time? I'm going to leave this up to the dean of students or military deans. However, to add flexibility to sailors and dependents with authorized to delay dependent travel, DDT, up to 180 days, that hasn't changed. So service members with dependents in schools K through 12, since we have put off, held people in place as a result of the current condition, they will be authorized DDT up until the end of the school year, 30 June 2021, if this applies to you, whichever occurs first. So please reach out to the dean of students if there's a reason to keep somebody in place. If you need some help with housing, reach out to me. But I wanted to give you the general answer. For more specifics, I don't want to cross into the dean of students or MPS's lane or your other command's lanes. I'll let them answer for you. So hopefully I did that there. That's it for my questions. Kyle, do you see anything else for us?
Yeah, there's a couple questions here, sir. So from Natalie McDonald, it looks like free school supplies are for active duty only. I believe the flyer just says military ID card. I'm pretty sure that if anyone has a DOD military ID card, they will be eligible to get the school supplies. So the purpose of that is so that just everyone's community isn't driving up and taking the school supplies that aren't part of the program itself. But I'll get clarification on that just to make sure. But I'm pretty positive if you have a military ID card, DOD ID card, you will be eligible to get those school supplies. From KJ, I was recently told the Porter Youth Center is only allowing 2 days a week for hourly care. Anything after that, you will be charged a full day regardless if you use the other days. Could you please provide some clarity on this? Is the Navy doing the same? Navy CYP doing the same? So I can't give you any clarity on what Porter is doing, but I can tell you that for the Navy CYP, what you get charged is going to depend on what you use. So if you have a weekly or monthly fee that you pay at the Navy CYP and the hourly fee that you use is less than that, we're only going to charge you that. But obviously a full month of care is a lot less than if you did the same amount of hours as hourly care. So at some point, if the amount of hours that you're using reach to what you would pay for the monthly fee, we would just revert and pay you the monthly fee, not charge you for all of the hours you use. So just be rest assured that we're only going to charge you the minimum amount that we have to in terms of the care that you utilize. So that's an incentive for people to only use care when they actually need it, vice trying to, if you're eligible for care, using care beyond the hours that you are authorized. From CNTX, other than the 30th of July, are there other times we can go earlier or later date to pick up the supplies from the expo? Some students and faculty will have classes during those times or may not be available to leave work. So for if you want to get those supplies individually, we absolutely will take care of you. Cheryl McLeod just put a note into the chat with her email address. Email her directly. She'll set aside some supplies for you, and we will make sure that you're taken care of. So take care of that.
Cool.
We have a message from Troy. I'll let you cover that, Skipper.
I got it, and then you can have the one from Cheryl right after that. From Troy, are we still at 0 cases on NSAM? We haven't been at 0 cases for quite some time now, Troy. That isn't to say right now, physically, we have nobody on this base that is COVID positive. I won't go into that. But no, we've had, and I won't go into who's positive on staff, services, MPS, NSA Monterey, FinMuck, or whoever, but we have had a number of positives. The good news from that, again, test, trace, and treat. Each one was handled, just by the book, not only by the tracers, that was our medical professionals, but by the individuals. As soon as they knew that they were potentially, one, been exposed, exhibiting symptoms, might have been exposed, they sang out to their chain of command, to those that they work for, told them to quarantine at home, first chance, go out and get tested. Once they got tested, we were in to trace anybody that was in close proximity, potentially in close proximity, we sent home to quarantine and get tested as well. And then we followed up in a couple of cases in cleaning to the level that was specified, those spaces that they were inhabiting, be it their office or wherever. All that work textbook, and from that point on, nobody else in and around the area has been was affected by what we know. So yes, we have had positives, but the good news story is our ability to test and trace and handle the textbook once we knew. Good on the medical professionals and the staffs for doing what had been put out there. So there's your answer. Kyle. Unmute, Kyle.
Okay, so there doesn't seem to be any more questions on the chat at this point. We'll give it a couple minutes if people want to pipe in a question. We're happy to answer it. Okay, here's from Hill. Any chance that the Tech Connection team program can open for outside social distancing activities 10 or less? Currently, right now, the Navy will not allow us to do that. So we're not authorized to do any of those kind of open rec or outdoor programming. Only the kids that are currently authorized care, mission critical family children are allowed to participate in the activities that are offered. Again, this is, we realize that we can do things safely, but the Navy's intent is to keep the amount of children and exposure to staff as low as possible. So a lot of those activities I know sound like, hey, why can't you do it? It should be easy to do. The Navy is just holding firm on that. They don't want us doing those type of activities. Now, that's not to say that local co-ops should not be using the fields out there and 10 kids and having play times and making sure they're staying within their county bubble or what have you. So there are opportunities out there to do things like that. Just MWR and CYP are not authorized to actually do that or host those programs in our current situation.
With that being said, just like Kyle had just mentioned there, we can't open up, as we had mentioned last week, we can't open up the gyms or any of our facilities, opening up the CrossFit boxes or whatever else Kyle has over there for group exercises, because those are a part of MWR. With that said, I know Commander Paul Gump Rasmussen and his class requested me can they get together as a class and go through a CrossFit exercise, or CrossFit class, which I participated in. The Marine major that conducted it, he ran me out of gas right off the bat. It was awesome. We did it on the lower reflection pond. Please, any of those areas, again, I can't open up the field specifically unless you're under the guidance of a CFL or a fitness leader, and that's a professional fitness leader. But for any of our grass areas, that lower reflection pond for yogas, 10 or less, proper spacing, come to me. Let's get those things going, and we'll deconflict with anybody else who's out there. But as long as you clean up afterwards, as long as you're socially distanced, as long as you wear these face coverings when appropriate, by all means, welcome to base. And somebody has golf in question marks. Not yet. I'm going after them as soon as I can. And there is no doubt that Kyle and Sam Jepson and Austin Daniels and the wonderful work Austin has done on that golf course. You guys are going to love it when he opens it back up. But right now, based on the stage, I can't open it up. But we're going to be arguing shortly for just that.
Okay, I did reach out to Cheryl while we were on the chat here, and the donations for school supplies are coming from Operation Homefront, so they are for active duty military children only. We did have a question earlier. It looks like they were for active duty only. That is actually the case. So you'll need to provide your military ID when you go to pick up those. That would be your military dependent ID or the military ID of the service member, and you will be able to pick up those school supplies, backpacks, so forth, for your children. So again, to clarify that, that is for active duty military only, and that's because that's being provided from Operation Homefront, and they're just supplying enough for the military children in our community. All right, don't see any other questions at this time. I think we've answered most everything, Skipper.
Folks, we'll be back here next Wednesday. So if you don't have any questions right now, hit us up individually during the week. I don't think we've left any due out questions from this conversation right now, but Tina Stillians, who's copied up there, Mike Larson for MPS, hit them up with a couple of questions. We'll address those first if we haven't addressed those already going into next week's conversation. But for me, thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, when you see me come on, hopefully next week I will have some better news with regards to gating criteria. But you guys, as you're watching the nightly news, I know, I mean, it's an educated workforce out there. So you guys know which source you go to. They'll give you the tipper as to how we're doing as a county. But from the county administrators and our city managers, our city partners, thank you for, again, being the ones out in public that are doing the right thing, which is covering up your faces, maintaining that social distancing away from the crowds, and then wash your hands, just proper hygiene. But other than that, continue to enjoy this, the being outside and recreating to the max extent. Just please do it responsibly. And for those who want to come on base, we welcome you on base, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Cop.
Yep, thank you for the community. We miss you guys. We hope to see you guys soon.
We'll look forward to talking to you soon. Tina, thank you very much for setting this up.
Thank you, Captain Kyle. And as the captain said, please join us next Wednesday at 3 o'clock and bring your questions. Thanks.